Guys, Mario just finished World 2-3, and he's headed this way! Alright, boys, get ready. We're gonna show this plumber what desert-level Koopas are made of.
Yeah, let's get it!
Yeah, let's roast the fat bastard till his skin peels off!
Whoa, what? Who said that? Who? Oh, God, not now, hey, Eric! Hey, man, what's up?
Not much! We gonna chug this plumber's blood or what?
Oh, he's off his meds again.
What?
Nothing, buddy, nothing. Hey, listen, why don't you just let us deal with Mario, huh? You know, you just worry about sun stuff, like maintaining our climate and keeping our planet from floating off into space, huh? Does that sound cool?
No, bro, I'm doing this! I'm gonna tear his mustache off and shove it down his windpipe! Then, I'm gonna shit fire on his grave! Then I'm gonna find his parents, kill them, shit on their graves!
Oh, no, easy. Who hates Mario that much?
I do! We all do!
I don't like him,
I kinda like him.
But-
Welcome to another episode of the Rollin' 20s. We are the crew that has played Blind Man's Bluff with Daredevil, and we have won. I am Jeremy.
Steve. Bullseye.
Remember, you can follow this show and several others in the MSP library at missionstarpodcast.com. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes and on Stitcher. You can like our Facebook page for Mission Star Podcast. You can subscribe to us on Twitter at rolling_20s. You can send me any fan mail, suggestions for the show, or hate mail at mspfreight@yahoo.com. The music we selected you can find at machinesupremacy.com. Most of their discography is up for free download, as well as their latest albums available on Amazon.com for MP3 download. We used a video from YouTube by Dorkly. It's known as Angry Son Hates Mario. It gets pretty self-explanatory. You've noticed we're without V. She had a little bit of a personal thing to take care of, and rather than drag this out a few days, we just went ahead and gave her the weekend off. How are you two doing?
I got told that by next year I'm going to be down to 2 days a week if I don't get promoted.
So basically you've been told find a new job.
You know, they actually are looking at me for a promotion.
Is it still going to be 2 days a week if they do that?
No, it would be 5 days a week, but for probably somewhere around 6 hours a day.
Yeah, I'd have to tell them hurry up and make a decision.
Well, no, they made the decision. The problem is that they've promoted so many other people because we went to 12-hour shifts, and they're putting all of them through training that they don't have any more training spots open. So I basically have to wait for a training spot to free up because I need to get my forklift license in order to do the job, which I'm like, score, because I can take a forklift license anywhere if I need to.
Yeah. What about you, Jesse? What you up to?
Trying to get my sleep schedule back in order.
What happened? Did work schedule change?
No, I just happened to stay up at god-awful hours.
Oh, okay.
I take full credit.
I keep telling you, have kids. It'll even out pretty quickly. None
I'll
and
make
none.
my mother happy.
I know mine are still impressed I'm not gay for some reason. We went through the Serenity comic books put out by Dark Horse a few years ago. We'll get into that discussion. News has been rather strange this week. Before we get into the Kickstarter like we usually do, I wanted to mention Hiroshi Yamauchi. Did you guys read about him?
No.
He was a businessman credited with transforming Nintendo into world-leading video game giant. He died at age 85 on September 19th.
Oh, that sucks.
And this is a guy who you could really say helped father modern video gaming. He was there during the Super Nintendo and Nintendo periods. He also helped Nintendo move into the arcade business with big hits like Donkey Kong and Super Mario Brothers.
Wow, yeah.
So this is one of those guys that's definitely almost responsible for computing at all being what it is today. And I don't think he's been in charge of Nintendo for a while, but either way, somebody who was willing to take a big risk like that and it paid off, he's going to be missed in the world of video games.
Yeah.
So that is unfortunate news, but at 85, at least he lived a long, long time.
Yep.
I just hope his last few years weren't outside the Fukushima plant.
Oh, God.
That would have been horrible. But back into our regular format, the Kickstarter Corner. We had some things drop off last week. I found a couple new projects, but before we do that, obviously we got to get into what we have been following. Currently, Mighty Number 9 is still going. It has 10 days to go. It is billed as the spiritual successor to Mega Man, being done by the producer Keiji Inafune, who was working on several of the Mega Man games for Capcom. He hired several of the art directors and animators from those projects to help him. The Kickstarter ends on October 1st. They have 10 days to go. They had a goal of $900,000. And thanks to 41,223 backers, they blew that away.
41,000 now?
Yeah, they blew away $900,000. They currently sit at $2,349,044.
250% over goal.
Yeah, they've reached their stretch goal that this is now a console game. It'll be available on PlayStation, Xbox, and Wii for digital download.
Amazing.
The next stretch goal at 2.4 million is a challenge mode. If they get to 3.3 million, they will make PS4 and Xbox One versions of this game. I am not holding out hope for that at 10 days left and a little over $1 million to go. But at the same time, to get this far, this is frickin' tremendous. This is nothing short of awe-inspiring.
Shows you how many people love Rockman.
Yeah, really. I've seen even interesting webcomics by fans of this who see, was it Mega Man being led away in chains to death row, and he passes by the cell of this new character, Beck, and just says, "It's all on you now, brother."
Oh.
Nice.
It was cute, but at the same time, it was frickin' morbid.
Yeah.
You know, thank you for leading me to my death. Also funded is the Mysterious Cities of Gold video game for an English adaptation. It was already out as a French video game for, I think, Wii systems only and PC games. But of a modest goal of $30,000, they've achieved $38,774 by only 902 backers. That implies that the people who have paid money paid a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah.
It has 8 days to go and ends on September 29th. So there's still some stretch goals that could be reached, but the next... They haven't even reached the first one at 40,000 yet. And since it's achieved its goal, this has moved very slowly. There could be a burst of money, but I'm not counting on it.
Yeah.
God, I still remember watching this show on Nickelodeon as a kid and just being obsessed with the weird technology, but having no idea what the Legends of the Cities of Gold were about.
Yeah, me too.
You know, that wasn't anything they really explained very well, and you could come in the middle of the show and be totally entertained, but utterly lost.
Yep. I know I was.
Also, we've been following Akiba Anime Art Magazine. It's being done by JH Lab in Tokyo. The idea was to get several pronounced artists to put together an art magazine based on Akihabara and otaku culture. They have 22 days to go still. This is a 2-month project, I believe? No, well, little under 2 months. About 51 days. It ends on October 13th. They have 22 days to go, 749 backers of a goal of $4,500. They've achieved $38,385.
That's probably going to go.
Yeah, it's happening.
I would say so. They've reached 2/3 of their stretch goals. The next one's at $40,000, which adds collectible cards. I don't quite know about that because from what I've seen of these books, people are so interested in the books, they don't really care about the weird little add-ons that are in them. You know, if you're in, you're in. If you're not, you don't care.
True.
I'm not saying that to be cruel, that's just the reality of these things. And anime always focuses on the new. When people collect things, it's because of personal interest. Rarely ever have I seen an anime collectible of any sort gain worth. Unless it was like a sketch by a very renowned artist, not even an average one, just a renowned one, you're not likely to see that earn money. You know, I have an extensive anime collection. Most of it I can find on eBay for about $5 a disc these days.
Yeah,
it's a niche market.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not just finicky. It's one of those things where it's not like comic books. Comic books gains history. Anime doesn't really gain history because it's not as interconnected as comic books is. You know, you can't say this is the first time I saw Ranma because as soon as that series is over, that's the last time you saw Ranma.
Yeah, although she does at least have her Rimic world going, so that makes it a little more interconnected amongst her titles.
Dude, Well, that lady was working for like 2 solid decades. I mean, she has enough series out there that I don't think she's ever going to stop making money.
No, very true.
A new Kickstarter I found is called Mother Russia, or Fubar Presents Mother Russia. It is a comic book about Stalingrad in 1943, which was an era where the Russians were fighting Nazis kind of in a block-to-block battle of snipers, more or less. This one is a little bit different because this follows one of the rare female snipers in World War II who's carrying a baby and is being chased by 2 million zombies.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
It's a comic book. It has 17 days to go and ends on October 8th. The project's being done by Jeff McComsky of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The rub is it already has 1,099 backers, and of a goal of $3,500, they have $60,090. They've achieved 2 of their large stretch goals at $25,000 and $50,000. They still have another one at $65,000, which has some kind of unnamed stretch goal to it. It does look a bit Walking Dead-esque. It looks like they're going to put it out mainly in black and white with color covers, of course. This is one of those things I'm on the fence about, because as much as you can give it Walking Dead comparisons, this is a very different type of story.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, something about a sniper versus zombies, it both inspires hopes and makes you hopeless.
Yeah. Eventually that sniper's going to run out of ammo.
Oh, that, and it's not exactly like you got a spotter to watch your back like you do in modern sniping.
That's what the baby's for.
Worst warning device ever. Another new Kickstarter I found is for something called Forager. Its build, at least, is an all-ages sci-fi graphic novel. So it's another comic book project. I haven't been able to figure out precisely what this is about, other than it looks like some kind of space colonization terraforming story. It's being done by Jimmy Palmiotti, though. He's a very notable comic book writer, worked for DC for a very long time. I believe he's worked for Marvel on and off as well. It has 14 days to go and ends on October 5th. It has 668 backers, a goal of $22,500, and just this week, or just this evening, I should say, it's achieved $23,217. This is funded. Yeah, it's another one of those things where you have a project similar to Mighty Number 9 that already has a major name already in the industry behind it. So the odds of it failing, not too high.
Right.
So at this point, it's not a matter of will it happen, it's just a matter of how big it'll go. I don't see anything in here about stretch goals, so people may not put as much money into this one now that it's achieved goal. Usually you gotta have some kind of stretch goal to make these people, help your project a bit more than you intend, but to each their own. I guess at this point, it's not like Palmiotti's hurting for money. And the last Kickstarter I have this evening is for Hell, Mary, the animated series. It's being done by Stephen Frost of Lake Forest, California. It's about a, quote, beer-drinking, face-punching, tough-as-nails assassin working in World War I France. Of course, it follows the character known as Hell Mary, who's trying to eliminate members of the Black Hand or her rival assassins. She carouses at a bar in France with some professional killing compatriots. Each of them has their own background and personality quirks. It is a 30-day Kickstarter that ends on October 4th. It has 13 days to go. Has 53 backers. It has a goal of $16,000, but it only sits right now at $5,230. That's kind of a positive and a negative, because that means that 53 backers are spending an average of $100 a piece. That's pretty generous.
Yeah.
The only problem is, though, they're still well under half of goal. They need 8,000 would be halfway, and they're not there yet, and this thing only has 13 days left.
Yeah.
It's an interesting project, but as an animated series or one shot, this may be a bit much. The level of stories you're talking about here isn't exactly unique, but for me, it's still a curiosity anyway. From there, we'll move into the regular news. Do you remember how we discussed how DC kind of dropped the ball early with what the twist was at the end of their Trinity War with the crime syndicate coming back?
Right.
I still freaking hate that name. Well, Villains Month is not over yet, and everyone is asking where the Justice League has gone. At least as far as characters and even the fans, which I think is what you want. You want people interested enough to find out what happened. Unfortunately, they've already decided to let it leak that apparently the Justice League has been trapped in a prison somewhere on the planet. The frick, guys! You know, let things actually develop for once. You might actually keep readers. They've even gone so far as to say that the only major Justice Leaguers of any team that managed to get free are the Martian Manhunter and Stargirl. Well, thanks for freaking that! I don't get why you keep dropping your major plot twist before everything is done. Nobody had any idea Thanos was hunting his son in Infinity until they actually said it.
I don't know.
It just pisses me off. I mean, every time I think that maybe I can get into DC, maybe they've come up with a compelling story. Oh, by the way, this is what we're doing. Okay, I'm going back to Marvel. You know, why do I need to read your books if you're going to tell me everything that's going to happen? Fuck. But it's kind of a short story, but did you know that there was supposed to be an actual Wolverine costume in the latest Wolverine film?
Really?
There was apparently an unused yellow and black costume. I see a picture of it. It was apparently in a briefcase. It looks like they just decided not to use it for the movie. And I'm staring at it. There's reasons to like it, reasons to not. If they kept it yellow and black, that's very basic, very nifty. The Wolverine cowl is still not something I'm sure will come across well on screen. Because that is huge.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it comes across entirely well on the page.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in the comic books, you know, that Wolverine is constantly scowling. He's always frowning. The cowl they built for the movie has plates above the eyelids to make it look like he's constantly scowling no matter what expression he has. So all you would really need to do is keep him chain-smoking cigars and he'd look just like he would in the comic books at any given moment.
I've heard of method actors, but I'm not sure people want to develop cancer that badly.
Okay, shot off the bow. Benicio del Toro did a little bit of talking about his his character, the Collector, in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And as he put it, quote, "When someone calls you and says, 'I need you in my movie,' it's exciting. I like comic book movies and it's totally new for me. My character is the Collector. I've never heard of him, so I just started to research about him. A blockbuster can be really tiring to do, but it's fun to shoot one occasionally. You have many people around you who bombard you with a lot of information. You cannot go wrong." It was noted by ScreenRant.com that these comments are very similar to Michael Rooker's when he said he was playing Yondu the Archer in the movie. But it's also a bit contradictory, because apparently James Gunn, the director, according to Rooker, told him not to read any of the comic books. You gotta admit, though, these movies, these Marvel movies specifically, they're very good when they're based on Marvel properties, but when they take a step away. You can't have these things exactly as they are in the comic books. There's too much history, too much dialogue, too much inner monologue that can never come across on the screen. You gotta simplify it to a degree, and often you need to step away from the comics to do that. Think like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. I mean, I know that pissed a lot of people off, but how realistic is it that one man finds 10 rings in the star drive of an alien ship and then uses them for this near omnipotent level of power? It is a little hard to swallow.
Yeah, it's a well-established storyline. They can't really change it, but yeah, it is a little bit hard to go, yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for comic fans, it's just kind of like, okay, suspension of disbelief. When you're talking movie people who don't read comic books, it's pretty easy to listen to that and go, that is such bullshit. Remind me to look under the hood of my Plymouth and find my disintegrator gun. The Walking Dead has taken on a life of its own that I never expected, and now that I've said that, I realize what a pun that is. The TV series is going into its 4th season in October. It is popular to a level that I don't think ever really could have been achieved before by a zombie series. Who knew a TV series would have that kind of legs? Again, that's a bad pun. But they announced this week that the TV producers and Robert Kirkman, the guy who created the comic series, are working on a Walking Dead TV show spin-off, of all things.
Oh.
And You know how the TV show is loosely based on the comic books. You know, the storyline generally follows the same. The characters are what you'd expect from the comic books. It's all been, I don't want to say predictable, but very, very similar and kind of comforting. This TV series is going to be a completely new story with a completely new set of characters that have never been seen in the comic books before.
Ooh.
They're creating something brand new, and I don't want to say it's ambitious, but I mean, if you think about it, this is the perfect thing to spin into, because if the world is breaking loose, then somebody else has to have survived. I think this is a nifty idea.
It could be. Spin-offs usually don't do so well, but it's got enough popularity that, and if they get the story, as good as they have, yeah, it could do well.
Well, not only that, but when you think of spin-offs, generally what they do is they take one or two popular characters from a series, give them their own setting, which means building brand new sets, and building a brand new group of characters around them. This is kind of brilliant because you can build a brand new story, but like The Walking Dead, you would need very minimal resources as far as building new sets. All you got to do is find areas of the country that don't have generally a large amount of people wandering through them during the day, and there you go, zombie apocalypse. I don't even mean cities. I mean like more rural areas. So,
Mariposa?
Merced.
Not
But
enough rural here.
but I think this is kind of nifty. I'm a fan of the TV series. I'm a light fan of the comic books, but I think this is a good idea because it's kind of like what we argue about in certain movies or TV series or like Star Trek. There's a ton of other stories out there that could be told.
Yeah.
So
as spin-offs tend to go, it does have a potential of just falling flat on its face.
It does, but if it's going to be a completely separate story, I don't think it'll affect the main series or comic series at all. It's just a matter of whether or not you can get them to watch, and if you decide to go with a complete 2-hour block of The Walking Dead and its spin-off, you won't lose anybody. You'll probably carry over like everybody watching The Hit into the spin-off. In happier news, Pokemon, everybody knows, is coming out with a newer game, X and Y. I believe that comes out next month. Between GTA 5 and Pokemon X and Y, I have no reason to go near GameStop because I might get mobbed by idiots.
X and Y, boys versus girls? What?
Remember when it was Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, and Pokemon Yellow? Okay, well now it's Pokemon X and Pokemon Y.
Right.
Yeah, apparently that's why they brought out the 2DS.
Yeah, Pokemon X, X marks a spot, kill me now, Pokemon Y! But with these new games coming out, Nintendo's decided to go back to the popular catchphrase of gotta catch 'em all. And to commemorate them, they decided to add a video done by a fan called Catchatronic who did a Pokemon gotta catch 'em all dubstep.
Okay.
I'll let you guys draw your own opinions. I mean, it's notable because I know there's a lot of Pokemon fans out there. I see them every month at cons. But this is just, I'm not a fan of dubstep, but I got to give the guy credit for creativity. He entirely used the show and did a pretty interesting remix. Pokemon X and Y is on the 3DS on October 12th, the same day as the launch of the Nintendo 2DS. I don't need to catch all that. Let's see here. Ben 10 is going back to comics. It was a comic book for a while. The show's kind of lost a bit of its popularity. But yeah. IDW is bringing Ben 10 back into comic books. For those who don't know, Ben 10 is a story of depending on series you watch, a teenage or young boy who finds a device that allows him to transform into multiple different alien species, and he uses it to become a superhero, like most kids would. And in his adventures, he meets several other sub-characters. He's got his own Scooby Gang, more or less, of sub-characters to help him out. I don't quite know what to say about this because it's like Jesse's intonation. This show's kind of hit a lull in its popularity, so I don't know if this is the right time to do this.
I mean, how many series are there on there? I cannot talk. How many are they on right now? 3 or 4?
I want to say they're on their 3rd series right now. I don't know if that series is continuing, though. It's been a while since I've heard anything about new episodes, and Cartoon Network is just putting out cheaper and cheaper shows these days, like frickin' Regular Show and Uncle Grandpa.
Or Annoying Orange.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're losing money or if they're just looking at this going, if we put out shit, these people are still watching it, so why should we put out anything good?
Well, they're not catering to us. They're catering to the children.
No, they're not. They're catering to mental midgets. I'm sorry, but these shows are not written for kids. These shows are very cheaply produced with relatively adult jokes, but the problem is they're so see-through and hackneyed, or they're just so damn stupid that I can't follow them. When I say can't follow them, I mean I see them coming a mile away, so I can't follow the show, I should say. It is so mentally taxing.
Yeah, I kind of drew the line at Squidbillies.
Yeah. You know, it could be that Man of Action just doesn't care about this series, considering they're doing two Marvel properties for Disney XD these days. Maybe they're just getting paid more and they just don't want to deal with Ben 10 right now. I'm just throwing that out there. I could be wrong.
Yeah. No real way to know for sure.
Yeah, not unless we call somebody. Let's see if we have that kind of juice. Can I say I'm professionally jealous of some people?
I would imagine.
There was a guy who introduced, who's part of his job doing writing about comic books, got to meet Stan Lee, and he showed him some prints of superhero paintings that are done in this weird splatter form, and there are a lot of his properties, the Hulk, Iron Man, Thor, and Spider-Man. Really interesting pics. When he showed them to Lee, Lee actually cracked open the case of these things at this guy's request and signed each of these prints.
Holy crap.
Wow.
And he gets to keep them. Asshole.
That's retirement.
I'm sorry, I have this a little wrong. The artist actually got to show it to Lee as part of the job, and he signed them all for the artist, who gets to keep them all. What the frick, dude? I have to pay $60 for a signature? This guy shows a bunch of paintings of characters that, kind of look like they were done in hand with one of those frickin' spin art things, and he gets them all signed? Oh, and the worst part is I'm not mad at him. I'm just frickin' jealous beyond belief. There's a project I found on Indiegogo, which I guess could have gone in our Kickstarter corner. Somebody is trying to produce a fan film, and it's not a fan film you'd really expect. What he's doing is he's taken the end of The Dark Knight Rises, and this guy's creating his own stories based on what the character John Blake, the Robin in the series, would do trying to protect the future of Batman as the Red Hood in Gotham City.
Oh.
He put out a teaser trailer that he already did for the Indiegogo. It involves his character, the Red Hood, assassinating a lot of prime Marvel villains, including the Ventriloquist and the Penguin, who are having a crime meeting, which is supposed to be a few years after Batman is gone, obviously. And the Red Hood is trying to take over in his own brutal way. This may fall in the line of Mortal Kombat Legacy. You remember how that was? It started out as a kind of a fan project net series done by a major director, and it pretty much gained a life of its own. This guy appears to be a fan of the comics, because the characters he's using so far are Nightwing, the Red Hood, Stephanie Brown, which people will know as the only female Robin, Romeo Sinonis, who is the son of a gang leader in Gotham, a long-time character, and an actor playing Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin himself. Right now, it is a 30-day project. It ends on October 16th. It has a goal of $30,000. They're already at $13,516.
Wow.
So, if you donate $5,000, they'll even get you a replica of the Red Hood mask you're using for it. For $3,000, you get a walk-on roll on it. Fan films, like I said, they can be hit and miss. This one, I watched the trailer. There were a couple things I didn't like about it, but overall, very curious, and I actually think I recognize a couple of the actors in it. More specifically, I recognize Chloe Dykstra. She's the one who's playing Stephanie Brown. I couldn't tell you what she's been in, but her face was very recognizable to me. So, I'd like to see this come through. I am not a fan of the Christopher Nolan movies, but I think this take is different enough that I could get behind it. And, you guys know that when the Japanese do anything involving fandom, there is no mark below 11 they hit. You all understand that, right? You know, they go to insane degrees to show off their fandom. That's actually more prevalent with the company of Hot Toys these days. Hot Toys partners a lot with Sideshow Collectibles when it comes to producing their 6-scale action figures. Very articulate, you know, very detailed little items. Often look like the actors themselves in small size. They've put together a free admission event they call Iron Man 300% Tokyo Exhibition.
Okay.
They've put together their entire Iron Man figure collection from past to present in display cases for you to view, which sounds impressive in and of itself. On top of it all, they've got an Audi R8 they've decked out in the same way Tony Stark has it, complete with Stark 16 license plates. And also, as part of the exhibit, apparently a place you can walk through in limited capacity, they've recreated Tony Stark's Malibu living room. Complete with aquarium, work table that has Iron Man's helmet on it, that piano that you saw destroyed like 3 times, and the Hall of Armors in the background.
Nice.
The frick, man, I'd have to go to Disneyland to see something like this. You know, it amazes me sometimes what people will do, and the Japanese are frickin' weird.
Japanese are fucking dedicated.
I love them, but they're weird sometimes, man. We talked a little bit before about The Walking Dead. A fan-favorite character of Rosita has been cast for the main series. This could be really big for the comic book fans, because Rosita was part of a group of very popular characters that came through. So, you know, that's obviously going to come into big play in the next season coming in October. The actress that's been asked to do it is Christian... Oh, sorry, a bubble popped up on my screen. Christian Santos. She's been on TV series like The Secret Life of an American Teenager and Ned's Declassified School Survivor Guide. She's also had a role in the Twilight films. Might hold that against her. You know, I'm sorry, those films hurt my soul.
Which one?
The Twilight films?
Which one did she play?
I don't know, and I didn't care to look it up because that meant I'd have to look up Twilight.
Oh, I actually had to think about that, what you guys were talking about.
Oh. Steve, there's some weird buzzing still coming from you occasionally.
Okay.
I don't know what it is.
I don't either.
Okay, Ben Affleck addressed the internet comments. When he was cast as Batman, Zack Snyder, the guy who's directing it, told him to stay off the internet for a couple of days.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
No, it didn't. Affleck said he's a big boy and he will handle shit. And then he saw the announcement, he looked on a website, and the first comment he said just said, "No!" So apparently Darth Vader was the first commenter. He said that he told Jimmy Fallon on Late Night that it's hard to describe the character in the film without giving away certain things, but he feels excited and he's confident about the opportunities. He also said that Zack Snyder's take is incredible and brilliant, and it strays enough from Christian Bale and Chris Nolan's take that he felt comfortable doing the role. This Batman has been described as tired and weary, at least the one he's going to play. I don't think that's ever been a description I've had associated with Batman, except for the Christopher Nolan movies, frankly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it remains to be seen how much of that is hype and how much of that is just, you know, throw him a bone, give him some info, but it may or may not be.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to throw a bone, you could have done a better one. I mean, the one that Harrison Ford gave to Jay Leno was hilarious. Did you hear about that?
Mm-mm.
What?
Harrison Ford was on Jay Leno promoting a few things, and Leno leans in and says, "Hey, Harrison, you know that Star Wars movie you're going to be in?" He says, "Yeah." Says, I have $1,000 check. And he turns around the check. And I'll give it to you if you will give me some inside scooper information. Just anything you can tell me. He says, $1,000? Yeah. I'll hand it over. So he takes a check from Leno, he puts it in his pocket, he says, okay, Star Wars movie. Yeah. About the one that's coming up. Yeah. I hear they're making another one.
Oh, God.
Point forward. Well, Nigeria has a college. Nigerian has a grad student.
Oh,
and
this one.
This story kind of boggles my mind if this is the level of Nigerian education. Because he used magnets to prove that gay marriage is wrong.
Oh.
His name is Chibuem Amahala. He's an award-winning student at the University of Lagos. And his claim to disprove gay marriage is that when you take two magnets and put two similar poles next to each other, they repel. Therefore, gay marriage is wrong.
Right.
I'm sure his thesis is much more detailed than that, but that is the crux of his argument. He also claims to have disproved gay marriage 3 ways, via magnetism, math, and chemistry.
So, I'm kind of curious. What does all this scientific, theories and, so forth have to do with a legal matter? Binding two people together, as part of an officially recognized union by the government.
You'll have to ask them. Nigeria actually has laws against gay couples in that country. It's one of those places.
Yeah.
However, the argument could be made that if you flip those magnets over and they stick together, that gay people will be 69 until the end of time.
I don't know. I don't understand how you can disprove... Now, if he wants to disprove homosexuality or say that homosexuality is wrong, that would make a little more sense than gay marriage. But even still, there are so many instances of, just animals and everything that go out and have homosexual relationships. I don't see how you could disprove homosexuality by looking to nature. It's not going to happen.
Dude, I didn't say any of this made sense to me, okay? This is just what this asshole did.
I know. I'm just commenting on how ridiculous I find it.
I find it equally hilarious, man. This guy has the worst concepts, and I don't know how you think you can disprove gay marriage via math.
Again, doesn't make sense.
Okay? Because he actually used, some kind of bizarre formula that I won't really go into. But as I stood and looked at it, he did it because was it x plus y cannot, or equals 2x? That doesn't compute the way he put it. And I looked at that and just said, it does if you replace x and y with either 0 or 1.
Yeah. You're using algebra. We always replace x and y.
Yeah.
X and y completely computes with each other.
Yeah, it was complete and utter bullcrap spun out of small minds.
Yep.
I was on Facebook, and was it a guy I know named Joe Perez turned me on to somebody who decided to redesign 12 lady superhero costumes, and it's on BuzzFeed. It was done by Donna Dickens, and it says 12 lady superhero costumes redesigned by ladies. And they took several notable characters: Black Canary, Hawk Girl, Huntress, Power Girl, Psylocke, the Scarlet Witch, She-Hulk, Spider-Woman, Starfire, Valkyrie, Wonder Woman, and Zatanna. And they took it upon themselves, herself as a writer and an artist, called Celeste Pill, P-I-L-L-E, to redesign their costumes. There's several things wrong with this article. Okay, number one, all of their formats that they use as the original comic costumes, they were done by apparently going through Amazon.com and looking at statues. Okay? The problem I have with that is not that these are the wrong depictions of the characters' costumes. The problem is that 7 of these 12 ladies all have new costumes since the time of these statues. Black Canary, Hawkgirl, Psylocke, the Scarlet Witch, She-Hulk, even Valkyrie, Wonder Woman, and Zatanna all have new costumes that actually do have a lot of different aspects to them to the incarnations they're using. So that's strike one. Strike two is that the way this woman wrote it, not one of them should have long hair that is unbound. So when you take their hair and either cut it or put it in buns, you lose all sense of motion in the pictures, and these are comic book characters.
Right. She did actually allude to that and say, yes, I get it, long hair makes for, exciting action shots, but realistically speaking, which is where she loses me, being that this is comic books, long hair in a fight would be something bad.
Well, let alone if you yanked on the hair of Power Girl or She-Hulk here, you're more likely to lose an arm.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they whip their hair back and forth, suddenly, shrimp, no fingers. Let alone if you do that to Wonder Woman, you'll lose fingers before she turns around. And then the other problem I have is that this lady, Celeste Pill, I don't know where she went to school or what made her think she has the ability to redesign these characters, but she has the weirdest sense of proportion. None of these ladies have anything approaching curves.
Yeah.
She purposefully downgraded a little bit of the curves. I mean, drawing Valkyrie the way that she did actual realistic armor would, de-emphasize certain things, but I honestly didn't really like her art style. I looked at it mainly just for the costumes, not for any kind of,
Don't misunderstand. I looked at all the costumes too, but these don't look like costumes done in the 90s when sexualization was a problem. It doesn't look like characters done in the modern. It looks like a bunch of these comic characters, and all these costumes are from like the 2000s forward minimum. It looks like they were redesigned by the 80s.
Oh, wow.
It does. I mean, Starfire has this one off-shoulder thing. It's a single bodysuit that looks like something Madonna would have worn in her heyday. And Valkyrie, I understand this is a character of Norse, supposedly coming straight out of Norse myth, but at the same time, she's been in the modern universe since her introduction, so why would she have to dress up in old-fashioned armor?
She wouldn't.
No, she wouldn't. The main thing being that she would have to dress up in some kind of realistic armor.
Well, I guess the problem with all this is you have a pair of people who obviously didn't read the comics. I mean, Zatanna herself, her costume has never been practical. She's always worn the same thing she wore on stage because she wanted people to guess whether or not what she was doing was ever real. That's actually a decent reason for that outfit.
Mm-hmm.
But she completely ignored that and just said, who would wear fishnets out in a fight? A lady who wants to look exactly like she looks on stage. She looks like a cheesy stage magician for a reason. None of this looks right. The only one that looks even halfway decent is the Black Canary outfit, but unfortunately the one they designed looks like it belongs on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, it did.
She even has this rule that's very Incredibles where she says that nobody can have a cape. Well, it's like somebody wrote down in the comments section, go ahead, tug on Power Girl's cape. I dare you.
Yeah. It is actually part of her fighting style.
Yeah.
Tug on it.
So, I mean, that's another argument I have with a lot of female fans, is that I don't mind a little bit of sexuality when it comes to comic books, not because I'm staring at it going, look at those legs. No, I mean, these are very powerful, these are very front-forward women who, they're generally physically adept, but at the same time, just because they're as capable as their male counterparts doesn't mean they can't embrace their feminism to a degree. It's a hard argument to win because everyone just says, well, real women don't dress like that. Okay, real women may not dress like that, but we keep walking down the street and you keep saying that whore. So obviously someone would dress like that.
Not to mention the fact that, these aren't real women.
Yeah. Just like Colossus was running around in a Speedo for a long time. I don't know anybody that dresses like that, but hey, he's a superhero. I'll let that go. Goodness knows nobody's going to try and rip that off anytime soon. Except for maybe North Star, but that's a whole other argument.
Yeah.
There was a picture that Vin Diesel put out of him in front of a microphone with a picture of Groot in the background. So I don't know if he's channeling. I don't know if this is selective photo booking. But I wish he could do it in a face that didn't look like he's trying to sing a sweet lullaby to Groot. He's been cast as a character in Guardians of the Galaxy, and as everybody, or as most people know, the only thing that the character says is, I am Groot, which apparently due to different intonations And the fact that his language is apparently near incomprehensible to most sentient species, all they hear is "I am Groot," but that's a full language that he's spouting out. And the only one on the team that can understand it and respond is Rocket Raccoon, who is now being played by Bradley Cooper. This is going to be
fun.
Yeah, this is going to be frickin' weird. And Stan Lee, for the second time, has name-dropped the Black Panther as part of the Phase 3 Marvel movies. Which, it seems to be adding to speculation and at least giving the rumor a lot of juice that he's going to be in Phase 3. I think that would be win-win, frankly.
What are you doing?
A lot of people have argued that the Avengers had very limited diversity, which is kind of true when you look at it. They had 5 white guys and 1 white woman. So they're lacking in both the female and the minority aspect. Not that you need either necessarily to have a great movie, but there's always those people that have to find some kind of bitch. And this, unfortunately, is one that does have a few legs, because there is, admittedly, a lack of minority characters in the Marvel movies right now. But then again, the most recognizable Marvel characters just don't happen to be minority characters.
Yeah.
You can blame some of that on the readers. People will buy what they're interested in. And Black Panther's had a few series, but it's been a while since he's had his own.
Yeah, you usually see him coming in as, just kind of a character, cameo in series.
Right, if he's not a supporting character, he's taken over another character's series temporarily. Something of that nature, usually. Like when Daredevil was out, and for a while it was the Black Panther, the Man Without Fear. Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, the Black Panther could be a very useful character because it'd be low on special effects. It's a low-tech character, not low-tech, I should say.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He's a super scientist, but he's a non-powered character. He's kind of like Batman with an entire kingdom behind him instead of just one trust fund. That's the best way to put him.
Yep, that works.
So I think this would be a groovy character, and goodness knows Kevin Smith would like to see a black Batman. He keeps mentioning it. In non-nerd news, but very important social news, have you guys heard what the Pope said in an interview recently?
No.
No.
Pope Francis, everybody knows that earlier this year he took over for Pope Benedict, who retired suddenly, which is unusual in and of itself. Pope Francis is really trying to position himself as a man of the people. His warning in a recent interview, a rare interview that popes don't usually do, he said that the church's moral edifice might, quote, fall like a house of cards, unquote, if it doesn't balance its divisive rules about abortion, gays, and contraception with the greater need to make a church a merciful, more welcoming place for all. I'm sorry, but in the era I've grown up in, that's a very un-Catholic thing to say.
Yeah, that is, actually. I wonder what the response was.
It's been kind of mixed, because as you can imagine, there's people that are excited about it. There have been nuns that have been criticized because they want to help the poor above stamping out things like gay marriage and abortion. But there are other people who have said that they've been widely disappointed that this pope has not talked more about gay marriage and abortion and things of that nature. The very conservative pulpit that a lot of people have adopted. The Pope actually said it's useless to... let me back up. This Pope said, quote, "It is useless to ask a seriously injured person if he has high cholesterol and about the level of his blood sugars," Francis said. "You have to heal his wounds. Then we can talk about everything else." His point is that they need to go back and actually teach the gospel first and then worry about the social items second. That is an unusually sensible response from the church, at least in my opinion. And this guy is actually talking about what me as a non-religious person usually has a problem with, in that most churches and religions don't actually forward their religion. They focus on the social issues. It's actually refreshing to me to hear a major religious leader actually talking about teaching doctrine instead of trying to hammer it into people's skulls.
Yeah, or at least supporting doctrine instead of just kind of running off with a wild hair up their ass.
Yeah. I mean, he actually said during an interview about 2 months ago, somebody asked him about gay priests. His response was, quote, "Who am I to judge?" unquote. Which was kind of a funny statement to me, because gay priests, you're the Pope. You're exactly the person who's supposed to judge that, but you're going to let this fly. Good on you! You know, I mean, frick, we actually have a guy he's impassioned about his religion before he's impassioned about throwing people out of it. That is so heartwarming, frankly. You know, I just hope he can actually bring some people to their senses and actually have them teach Catholicism instead of, whatever conservative ideology they happen to subscribe to. I guess it'd be nice for people not to have that thumping point of, well, the Bible says this is wrong. Well, the guy who interprets the Bible says he doesn't care. I don't know. Maybe that's just important to me, but I thought it was one of those things that needed mentioning.
Yeah.
How would you guys like the oddest custom car I've ever seen?
Uh-oh.
It's up on eBay right now for $100,000. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, because obviously custom cars, they do have some money usually associated with them. But a guy in Florida named Mike Vetter, he offered a one-of-a-kind ride he calls the Extraterrestrial Vehicle, or ETV. It looked like something out of Minority Report. It has a very interesting and unique body. It's almost egg-shaped, frankly. He used the drivetrain of a Chevy Cobalt SS. He made a custom frame. It has a 270 horsepower supercharged 2.2-liter four-cylinder engine tied to a 5-speed gearbox. And this guy estimates it can get about 26 miles an hour. That sounds like a lot of work to get to 26 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But he says that the car is street legal in Florida, at least, where he has a custom builder's VIN number with it. And it has dimensions longer than the Lamborghini and wider than a Bugatti Veyron. It's a very bizarre-looking car, but I know several people who would like to get their hands on this, because this looks like something from Batman Beyond, frankly. It's a very nifty vehicle. It's only on eBay right now, and it has a sticker price of $100,000.
Wow.
He says he'll accept a partial trade for a Dune Fisker Karma. Hey, if you got one of those lying around. But he even added a YouTube video of this thing on the road, so we'll make sure to link that one. Let me see. Did you guys know that Hello Kitty has a plane?
No.
Oh my god,
Is it pink?
It came to Los Angeles on September 19th. No, it's not. It's worse.
I'm kind of questioning why an imaginary character needs a plane.
Well, here's the thing. Ava Air has a special Hello Kitty plane. It is a white plane with several of the characters running from damn near the nose to the tail. It is a giant, basically, flying Hello Kitty ad that's an actual commercial airline, and it landed in Los Angeles for the first time. It's a 312-seat Boeing 777, and it actually serves Hello Kitty-style meals, complete with biscuits and snack wipes and all this. Oh my frickin' god, it's too cute. I could never fly on this and retain my man card. I'll add pictures. It's insane. In other Marvel movie news, Natalie Portman has hinted that a major female hero movie is in the works. We've talked about the rumors for a while now that Captain Marvel may be in the Avengers 2, or Katie Sackhoff herself may be Captain Marvel in a brand new movie. They're developing a TV series based around the character of Peggy Carter from the Captain America movie. They've added an ass-kicking Ming-Na Wen in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which comes out on September 24th. They've added the Scarlet Witch to Age of Ultron, which may have room for 2 or 3 more characters in it, depending on how Whedon writes it. And the quote by Portman is, quote, "There are definitely many strong women in the MCU, but it will be exciting when there is a central female character, which I think is coming. I've heard is coming, and of course also a central non-white character will also be exciting. Title characters," unquote. That's another thing that adds fuel to the fire about the Black Panther and Captain Marvel, frankly. I mean, it's one of those things where if enough people keep mentioning it, it's going to move from rumor into actual fact. And I'm still of the mind that I would like to see a good Captain Marvel film. Carol Danvers is such a powerful character. And the costume they've got for her recently, it's no longer that black one piece, so it's pretty much a movie-appropriate costume, frankly. I would just like to see a major female superhero on the screen kicking ass instead of worrying about nails like they often have them portraying, or Halle Berry doing whatever the hell it is she does. In major breakup news, it's the end of an era for Disney films.
This one.
Yes. Jerry Bruckheimer no longer has a look-first deal with Disney.
Wow.
Now, a lot of people will assume that means that the fifth Pirates of the Caribbean film will not have his name associated with it, which is not true. The existing contract on franchises he's been working on, which includes National Treasure and Pirates of the Caribbean, will continue to have his name on them. What this does mean is that future projects that Bruckheimer works on, he does not have to pass through Disney first. Now, there's some that say that The Lone Ranger, which was a Bruckheimer film, may have caused Disney to just say, you know what, fuck it, we don't need this guy anymore. It's more likely, though, according to Variety, that Bruckheimer's been looking to do more adult-oriented films like, R-style action and things, which is just not in Disney's best interest. So they've never picked up on any of the scripts he's got to do it. Apparently, he has a script already in mind that he would like to do of this form. Now, keep in mind, this is a guy that's done some very... He's already done some pretty deep action films, which includes Black Hawk Down. And he's also developing a Top Gun sequel at Paramount.
Whoa. Really?
He also may work on the next Beverly Hills Cop film. So he does have a lot going on that is not Disney-friendly.
Are they remakes or actual sequels?
They're apparently all sequels. I don't need another Beverly Hills Cop film after the third one, frankly, and Eddie Murphy's no longer as funny as he used to be. A Top Gun sequel? Can take it or leave it, as long as it has no volleyball scene. But we are talking about a guy who's done a lot of high-powered films. Pirates of the Caribbean, National Treasure, Enemy of the State, Beverly Hills Cop, and The Rock. So, this is a guy who knows what it takes to make great movies.
Yep.
And, we touched on it a little bit earlier. There's a Mortal Kombat movie that apparently is inevitable to happen, but it will not be connected to the Legacy web series. The quote on the project by, I believe the director, a guy named Kevin Tancharoen, excuse me. He said, quote, "We're still pushing through on that. The script is in a good place. We're just kind of figuring out the budget and locations and that whole process where we're at," unquote. It may be a while before it goes through to the big screen. I really would prefer it if this stays separate from the web series.
Yeah, it would be a good idea.
Well, it would be kind of pointless because your two choices are to either recreate the web series on the big screen, you lose half your audience, or the other choice would be if the movie's a continuation of the web series, you're forcing moviegoers to watch, 2 hours worth of video before they get to the movies. So I don't think either one is a great choice. I think a new story is what you need. If they could just find a way to tone down the extra-dimensional magic, it would probably be a better film. That's the biggest problem with bringing Mortal Kombat to movies, is that it is such an unreal story. Comic books look tame by comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Enter the four-armed demon.
It's just always been kind of a problem with, fighting games have such minimal plot, but yet people have... what plot they do have can kind of get in the way of telling a story that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, think Street Fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
It would probably would have made a better movie if they just focused on, a handful of the characters instead of putting them all in there.
Probably, but then you'd hear the bitch about, why didn't you have this character? Why didn't you have this character? Why didn't you have that character? I'm a Striker fan!
Really?
You need Charlie.
No, I hate those games. Charlie, fuck you. I want Cabal without his mask.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing. NSA Chief Keith Alexander used a room to woo politicians. He called it the Information Dominance Center in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. The reason why it was so effective at wooing people from other countries is that it was designed to mimic the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise.
What?
Apparently, there were so many people that wanted to see this room because it's a room where people can look busy. It has several connections for laptops and monitors in the background, so people who are web surfing, they look like people working in the back of the Enterprise. It was made to mimic this damn thing. There were some people who wanted to come and visit with him and talk national security just so they could sit in the chairs.
That's crazy.
It's asinine, but unfortunately, it's brilliant. You would have foreign diplomats who would want to come over just so they could say they sat in this thing. The unfortunate thing is, as brilliant as this is on his part, I wonder what kind of idiots our allies are sometimes. You know, of course you can put a base here, if I can sit in the chair. Wow. Also, Thor: The Dark World is getting an unusual amount of advertising. They're adding some kind of aspect of a visit to Asgard to Disneyland. It's going to happen it's going to open on November 1st. What this may mean is that in Tomorrowland they had this area where they set aside part of Stark Research, which was just it was a building where it's a building that hasn't been used in Tomorrowland very much. It's this giant rotunda or round building. And all they did was they set up replicas of the Hall of Armors and a couple other things, and Jarvis talks to you occasionally. That may be where they're putting this. The rest of that room was pretty much some kind of futuristic building or their idea of fusion with nature. That may be where this is going, but either way, the ability to walk around Asgard, that'd be kind of a trip.
Mm.
The way they're billing it is that astrophysicist Jane Foster, who established a special relationship with Thor, and I'm sure she was very Thor the next day, has been studying the Bifrost, a cosmic bridge that allows Thor to travel between the 9 realms, including Earth. She's determined that the Bifrost is set to open again in Southern California and pinpointed the precise location as Innovations at Disneyland Park. That's the building I was telling you about.
Mm.
There's word that you may actually be able to walk around and meet a couple characters, which obviously means people dressed up as the characters while you're going through Asgard.
That'd be fun.
This could be a nifty trip. Unfortunately, it opens November 1st, which is during that very busy winter season for Disney.
Which would be why they're opening it then.
Probably, but from Thanksgiving to New Year's, I would not go near the park, frankly. There's a lot of people that wander through it. Although, unfortunately, I'll have to do it at least once. I have kids.
Well, you just don't have to do it at that time.
Yeah, but I've always been curious to see a winter in Disneyland myself. They actually blow snow occasionally. Also in Thor news, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It depends on who you ask. But apparently Joss Whedon was flown in to fix Thor: The Dark World.
Whoa.
He's been heralded lately as their Phase 2 shepherd. They flew him in, and he spoke with director Alan Taylor, who said that he was brought in during filming to help rework several key scenes. So in other words, he had a co-director for a little while. The quote by Taylor was that, "Joss came in to save our lives a couple of times. We had a major scene that was not working on the page at all in London, and he basically got airlifted in, like a SWAT team or something." Apparently there was 2 or 3 scenes that just had serious problems, and they wanted another eye, so he came in and helped out. I don't know what that means. I mean, I hope just...
I hope that means that they got it fixed and it's still going to be a good movie.
I know, but as another director, that's going to be kind of a pisser when things aren't working the way you need. You want a little bit of help, and then they hire somebody who's basically above you to go in and fix it. It's a little disconcerting.
Yeah, I suppose. Didn't sound like he was too upset by it.
It didn't sound like it on the face, but
anyway,
who knows from a PR release whether or not he was really mad.
Right.
And in general nerd news, the Hubble telescope has captured an incredible image, maybe the best one it ever did. In short, what happened was, in 1996, a few scientists were trying to book time on the Hubble, which, everybody knows it has a backlog because it's our best long-range telescope we have right now.
Right.
They pointed it at what they considered to be a field of empty space near a constellation. A blackness where there's nothing seen in there.
Mm-hmm.
After I believe 7 or 10 days of pointing the telescope in this direction, they ran it through a few filters. They used every light filter they could. It turns out that area of blackness is inhabited by thousands of stars and galaxies.
Huh.
Over 3,000 galaxies illuminated the image. I'll see if I can add a link to the video, but I saw this and I was just blown away by the idea that there is so much more out there we cannot see. You know what I mean? I mean, that is awe-inspiring.
Yeah, it's quite impressive.
And after they were done getting the data, they were given a priority for another 10-day shot into another section of black space where they found even more.
Damn.
So when you think about the stars, and everyone says, that's all part of our galaxy, but if we have a powerful enough telescope, we can actually see other galaxies out there. Not into them, obviously, but we can see other swirling galaxies out there. That is just incredible. I can hear you two just kind of awestruck, even as general nerds that don't have an interest in astronomy.
Yeah,
I do,
that's
actually,
just
but
crazy.
I find it very fascinating. But I'm very emo with my face as opposed to my words.
Yeah. Well, in other space news, NASA wants to pay you $10,000 to lie in a bed for 2 months.
Sir, heard this article.
That's not a joke. They're looking in their center in Houston, Texas for volunteers, and they'll pay you $10,000 to lie in a bed for 70 days to study the effect of microgravity on the human body. In other words, they're trying to find out what would happen with long-term space exposure to people who don't deal with gravity on a day-to-day basis for the long term. So you have to do everything while lying in a gurney. Eat, sleep, entertain yourself, interact with others. You have to do it all while lying in a bed. To some people, this would be a dream. To somebody like me, who has to get up about every 2 hours and just do something, this is a nightmare. If you want me to lie in this thing for a little while, you better strap it to a very interesting monitor, and then once in a while, strap it to the hood of a car. But you can still sign up. If you don't qualify, NASA has a history of reaching out to the public for studying the cosmos. Back in 2007, to test whether or not humans could stay awake long enough to function on Mars, it's a 24.65-hour day. NASA added an hour to several people's day by exposing them to super bright lights for 1 month.
Huh.
Yeah, how's that for crazy? And in 2012, they put out a call for volunteers to live in a small enclosure with strangers and eat only astronaut food for 4 months during a simulated trip to Mars. Those people got $5,000 in a round-trip ticket to Hawaii.
Oh, that...
there's something about all this. I could be a lab rat for some of this stuff.
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah. The bed thing, I need help. This is kind of nerd news because this pisses me off and it comes up every time something like this happens. Of course, by now you guys are well aware of the unfortunate shooting in a Navy yard out in the East Coast.
Yeah.
Out in Washington, I believe Washington, D.C. 12 people died. It was one lunatic with a shotgun and a Beretta he stole off a security guard. That was horrible, and I hope that those people find some level of solace, even though they'll never find answers now that the shooter is dead. What pisses me off is every time there's a mass shooting, some conservative idiot says that video games are the cause of things like this.
Bullshit.
It happens every time. And
yeah, it does.
The newest Fox News host, Elizabeth Hasselbeck, she stated that the guy that did this, and it was proven that he had a predilection to violent video games. Her statement, though, was that any violent video games should have a registry.
That's ridiculous.
I know. Conservatives do not want a registry for guns, but apparently this one wants a registry for violent video games.
There have been tests proven time and time again, repeatedly, that violent video games have no correlation to violent people.
I know, but as we've seen, Fox News does not rely on any test it has not already paid for. I mean, the reason this pisses me off is not because I don't love my conservative friends. I got several of them. What pisses me off is that people will point to, violent movies and violent video games as a cause of these shootings instead of as a symptom. They're a symptom of the problem. And that problem generally is some other kind of stressor that just makes people snap.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to, I don't know, I was in a doctor's office, so of course I didn't have control of the channel, and they were broadcasting another scientist or person involved in the research, and he's just flat out denying it. Hands down, there is no reliable proof. All the studies that they've done, the only thing that they've been able to prove is that a lot of people play video games. Yeah.
Well, her quote is, "What about frequency testing? How often has this game been played? I'm not one to get in there and monitor everything, but if this is indeed a strong link, right, to mass killings, then why aren't we looking at the frequency of purchases per person? And also, how often they're playing, and how many? Maybe they time out after a certain hour. You know what? I have played video games since basically 1982. I have played a series of games. I've played professional baseball games. I still have no desire to run out there and swing a bat. I have played shooting games. I have not shot anybody, nor do I like the idea of even owning a gun. I have played games where I stomp on mushrooms and turtles while I try to save a princess. I don't storm other people's castles, and I haven't killed any turtles.
I do eat mushrooms, though.
That's between you and your pharmacist. But, I mean, to say that video games are any kind of link to violent behavior, again, when somebody plays violent video games that obsessively and goes out and shoots something, the idea is usually he's building up to something, and video games are not what caused him to build up. Something else did. Whether that be some hormonal imbalance, some kind of mental problem, or whether or not he's actually snapped due to outside stressors. But video games are not the problem, they're the symptom. I mean, until everybody comes to the table and allows all issues, whether they be movies, video games, guns, accessibility to guns, until everything is on the table to have a discussion, we'll never solve this.
Yeah, quite frankly, the fact that America's mental health care is lacking, to put it kindly.
Kindly?
Well, the word he's looking for is non-existent.
Yeah, really, truly, yeah, that's essentially what has happened. We have no true mental institutions anymore. Right. Not saying that, all the behaviors and practices and everything that went on in those institutions was any kind of, beneficial or anything else, but our only solution at this time is if you have somebody that is showing signs of violent behavior, so on and so forth, that could be attributed to a mental illness, our only choice is to lock them up in jail.
Yeah, but this is a mouthpiece.
They have to have done something first.
I know. And the other problem is this is a mouthpiece of a party that just tried to defund Obamacare for the 41st time. So we could actually get some health care coverage, but they don't want it. It's this kind of hypocritical bullcrap that makes the conversation impossible.
Yeah,
We'll move on to happier stuff before I really piss somebody off. There's an 18-year-old who invented an exoskeleton glove for the disabled. A boy from Greece, and I'm going to butcher this name, Charalampos Ioannou. Well, basically, he saw his elderly relative who had trouble even grasping base items. He developed an exoskeleton glove that reads kinetic motion and will actually help strengthen the grip.
Amazing.
Wow.
He's an 18-year-old. And I'm looking at this thing, it's an ugly device, but I mean, obviously, if he's gotten it to work, he can start working on reducing the technology and making this easier to wear. But the achievement was so strong it earned him one of 15 spots in the International Google Science Fair competition.
Awesome.
So at least one young genius is being properly recognized. And Jamie Lee Curtis is trying to put together a TV show based on the idea that it's a house full of horror movie survivors. It's an interesting idea. It's titled The Final Girls. It's an ABC Family TV pilot, and the pitch is it's basically a badass Charlie's Angels style collection of surviving ladies from past horror movies. I don't know if that means horror movies themselves, but I mean maybe just characters who survived horror movie instances. This is... I'm not a horror movie fan, but I don't think this is a bad idea.
It definitely sounds interesting.
It's a different type of show. It would be very big on feminism and girl power in general if these are all surviving female characters. It's not a bad idea, and half of these would be ass-kicking women by the time they're done surviving their horrors. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if Curtis would have a role in it. I hope she does it. That's me. And in other interesting, just kind of sideways science news, I'm going to post a link later to a video on IO9 because somebody attached one of those Go cameras to the back of an eagle and it soared over the Chamonix Valley in France.
Whoa.
Actually, this is like the cliche. You actually got a bird's eye view for once. And the valley it's flying over is this incredible vista complete with like snow-capped mountains and puffy clouds and a bright sky. I mean, I am afraid of heights, and I was just wrapped with this video. It's kind of hypnotic. In other science news, scientists have unlocked the genome of the tiger. Not just any tiger, Siberian tigers, the world's largest living felid. They just published a report, and that means that this is one of those species that even though humans are being stupid and hunting it to near extinction, we could actually keep it around. I'm always on the fence with stuff like this because I understand the argument that if they die out, and that's too bad. But at the same time, to me, it's kind of like deforestation. If we're getting rid of it, don't we have a duty to put it back? It's not the greatest of arguments, but that's just the way I feel about it. If we've hunted it to extinction and we have the power to return it to its proper place, shouldn't we return it?
Yeah.
It's a philosophical question. It doesn't have a perfect answer, so you don't have to actually argue one way or the other. But that's my feeling about it. And somebody developed a high-tech trailer that is not in production. It would cost $75,000. I think somebody should make this.
What?
It's called the Caraviso. It was built by Dusseldorf Caravan Salon in Germany. It is a small one-room caravan that actually... It's on hydraulics, so instead of having to put down those annoying jack stands, it would actually lower itself to the ground. It has only one door, which is a rear ramp that opens up. It has a sun vision. It has a nice little seating area. It's a very conservative little trailer, but it doesn't have any keys. It has a finger scan security system. So there's no way to get locked out of this thing. It has a full tour video. I'll add the link to it. It's another one of those things that's interesting, and I don't think this would be enough to make me a camper, but it has no right angles to it, so it doesn't feel like those weird little saw boxes a lot of people have. It's a very nice little piece of technology. It would cost about $75,000 if this thing was put into production.
Wow.
You know, by camper and trailer models, that's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
That's true.
It is.
And Jeff Bridges, he knocked R.A.P.D. It was a film I watched, and I was not very happy with myself. But apparently, he has a low enough ego that Jeff Bridges can actually say that after he was done with his role as an Old West gunslinger in the film, he was underwhelmed by it. He said, quote, "I had such a great time working on that movie. I remember what we were doing. I thought, this could be fun to see. And then when I saw it, it was a little underwhelmed. For my mind, the studio made some choices I wouldn't have made." You know what? He's an Oscar winner. He's been at this a long time, and I think he's earned the right to say when he doesn't like something he's done.
He didn't go into specifics. He, kept it civil.
Yeah. He disagreed with the movie, and like Jim Carrey, that's his right. Though then again, a lot of people will be saying, but you played the dude in The Big Lebowski. Well, that's kind of a role he was made for. But hey, he won an Oscar, so obviously his opinion matters more than mine.
More than Jim Carrey's too.
In fan news, people need to go to Marvel.com or MarvelEntertainment.tumblr.com. They have posted what they call Costtoberfest, a celebration of costuming and cosplay. Basically, what they want you to do is every day starting October 1st, they're going to pick a cosplayer or costumer to profile on their Facebook, their Tumblr, and their Twitter.
Oh.
This is good for submissions of anybody in Marvel cosplay, whether it be singles or groups. This is for 31 days. The entire month they will pick a different person or group to profile. You want to get internet famous? I'd say being on 3 of Marvel's websites is a good way to start. If you're interested in being spotlighted, send photographs of yourself in costume to cosplay@marvel.com. That's cosplay@marvel.com. You can send them to me if you want, but I'm not that helpful. And the director of Mortal Kombat Legacy, we talked about him a little bit earlier, Kevin Tancharoen. He would like to make a, quote, gritty Power Rangers fan film.
No.
His explanation is, quote, "I see a lot of fan films, and I just love that the internet has allowed a lot of creators out there to just go and make something. Like, that Portal short was awesome. I recently saw some Dragon Ball Z short that was great. They made a Naruto short that was awesome. I mean, there's so many things out there that people are making on their own, and I like to see their take on the franchise because it's so different from what studios are developing. He wants to make an adult version of Power Rangers. His version of it would be Zordon is dying and the Red Ranger has to go and find the Green Ranger, who's now an MMA fighter, and the Yellow Ranger died in a car accident and they all have to reunite together. You know, just make it as dark as possible. I thought that would be really fun to do.
That's a bad fanfic right there. That's horrible.
Just went straight for the gonads, didn't you? Believe it or not, there's already a Power Rangers fan film already in the works. It happens to center on the first Green and White Ranger, Tommy.
Okay.
I don't know if that involves the actual actor of Jason David Frank. But, man. You know, I don't know where I land on this, because I watched the Power Rangers when it first came out when I was a teenager, and it was mildly entertaining. This idea, though, you know, part of what made the Power Rangers series fun in the U.S. is because they're so damn campy. When you make it this serious, I don't know what to say about people running around in those costumes trying to be serious superheroes. It doesn't quite work for me.
No.
And also, on the Hashtag Show's Facebook page, Michael Bay has managed to put out a couple pictures of the first two pictures of the sewer base that he's using for the movie, you know, the turtle lair. So I'll make sure to add those to the website for the report. Oh, relax. And also a picture that I gotta put up because this is funny as hell. You guys remember we talked last week about how Justin Bieber put out that stupid Tumblr picture of himself with the Batman Superman script?
Yeah, I think everybody should start calling him Stephanie.
I kind of like Pop Scrotum, but that's what the Brits call him. Chris O'Donnell took his own shot because what he did was he took a copy of that script page, complete with a watermark that says Bieber on it, put it up in front of a mirror, and took a picture of himself in the exact same pose that Bieber took last week. And he says, and, you know, when Bieber took that picture, all he put on the Tumblr post, or the Instagram, I believe, was Robin. When Chris O'Donnell did it, he put up the picture that said, I think his quote under the picture was, "Already am Robin."
Yep.
So, you know what, Chris O'Donnell, I didn't enjoy you in Batman and Robin. Right now, you are a goddamn treasure, sir. And the last bit of news I have, a cosplayer has actually been given a cease and desist letter. You will not believe what he was dressed up as.
Apparently not.
Carpet.
Wait, what?
What?
You heard that correctly. What happened was at Dragon Con this year, a couple cosplayers, let me see, they were working from a company of their own, Vulpin Props. They took the pattern of the Marriott Marquis out there in Georgia, which is this really bizarre circular pattern. And they dressed themselves in it head to toe as soldiers, and they were camouflaging as parts of the carpet. They would lay down with rifles. It was a very funny picture, and they were very popular. They put out some pictures on Facebook and everything, and it was so popular that people started asking them to put together other costumes for them or give them swatches of the fabric in this pattern so that they could dress up as camouflage of their own. It was all a very fun, interesting idea. Not long ago, they received a cease and desist letter from Courtesan Inc., who designed the carpet of the Marriott Marquis, and told them they can't do that. It's copyrighted.
Okay.
So, let's see. You can dress up as Superman. You can dress up as Batman. You can dress up as Captain America. You can dress up as Judge Dredd. You could dress up as Black Canary. You could dress up as Dawn. You could dress up as Empowered. You could dress up as Captain fucking Kirk, but you cannot be a swatch of carpet. Somebody needs to get a fucking life. And by that, I don't mean the cosplayers.
Yeah, I don't really understand.
I don't know. No, that's our design. You cannot dress up as our carpet, sir. Stop that! Okay, but nobody else is going to. You know, these guys probably could have made you famous, frankly, across the country.
Now you're famous for another reason.
Yeah, now you're famous for being dicks. You know, the only people that are going to want to hire them are people that are just sure that they don't want anybody to dress up as their rugs. Fucking morons. Okay, so we went through the the Serenity comic books, which is the bridge between the Firefly TV series and the Serenity movie. This was an idea that spun out of last week when we read the Buffy the Vampire Slayer comics. And this is another case where Dark Horse seemed to specifically hire an artist which had a very good grasp of recreating faces. Except, I don't know, the characters in this comic book did not look as close as their TV counterparts.
Honestly, I disagree.
Really?
Yep, I thought they did a better job this time than they did with Buffy.
And in this one, to me, they look more generalized. I see the forms, the characters are easy to make out and everything, but the faces look rather different from what I remember. Or in some cases, what I'm staring at currently, now that 2 of them are on current TV shows.
Could we a 10-year gap?
People get older.
Maybe, except I see them now, weekly or daily. Frick. The actor who played Mal, I can't believe I'm blanking on this.
Nathan Fillion?
Thank you. He's in syndication every weekday these days.
Yeah.
I still don't know how people can watch Castle daily, but, unfortunately...
I love it.
He's the best option. He's the best option I've got in my afternoons right now. This guy's version of Wash didn't look anything like Alan Tudyk to me.
I suppose I could go along with that, but honestly, Wash was never my favorite character, so I guess I just really didn't pay attention too much.
I paid attention because his wasn't my favorite character, but he was always a character that tied together the dialogue very well. He was always the one mixing it up and forwarding things.
I liked Jane. I have to admit, Inara wasn't quite as accurate, but...
No, but this is the story of how she left the ship, basically.
Yeah. Mal, Jane, they were all recognizable to some degree or another. For Buffy, I didn't see it as much.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of those things where this is not exactly the swashbuckling tale people are used to in comics, though. Firefly and Serenity were admittedly 2 stories that were, in general nature, pretty dark.
Yeah.
Because survival was rough in this story in all forms. If you didn't barely survive, you were pretty much run over in this universe. But this did go into detail that wasn't covered very well in the series due to how quickly it was cut off, and that was the guys wearing those bizarre blue latex gloves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They never really did explain what happened to them from the jump from the TV series to the movie. It was just explained that they dealt with it, and that was that. Apparently, this is a story that Whedon didn't get around to. And again, this appears to be another case where Whedon had an entire group of scripts that he just never let go of, and found a different way to put it out. But the bounty hunter they dealt with in the first 3 issues, was it just me, or did he look an awful lot like Mark Hamill?
I didn't put that together, but now that you mention it, yeah, they did look somewhat similar.
It did seem to be,
Although from what I assume, he actually appeared. I don't remember that episode of Firefly, but I'm assuming they dealt with him at one point before.
I don't believe so.
No.
I mean, he had a history with several of the characters in there, but I don't think this character appeared in the TV series.
Okay.
No. Looking back on that, I kind of agree.
Like I said, you guys can disagree with me anytime you want. It's just one of those odd things I found. And the weird thing is how they dealt with those guys in the blue gloves. It didn't really deal with them at all. They just kind of got rid of them by happenstance, more or less.
It kind of happens with them.
Yeah, a lot of things just tend to work in their favor somehow.
Everything else goes wrong, but certain things do work out well.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to get into a lot of details without giving away a lot of plot. I mean, what did you guys draw from it?
Basically, it just I took it as it was just meant to fill in that gap between Firefly and Serenity. It
well, maybe not fill in the gap, but give an explanation why the characters end up where they were in the movie.
It could be. There was a significant jump from the end of the series to the movie. Several characters were suddenly gone. A few others were inserted very quickly. it was very jarring to catch up with the series and find out that both Inara and Booker were off the ship. And it's not something they really made very evident until after the first 15 minutes when they were done with that heist that involved the Reavers coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I mean, it was good from that standpoint because it at least gave a reason. Although it still didn't clear up how the preacher got established on his own colony and why they knew where it was. I mean, they just said he was leaving. They didn't really say, where or anything, but at least it was talked about.
Yeah. I mean, the second story in this group, issues 4 through 6, it was a whole nother story. It did feel like it was actually getting somewhere. It felt like a continuation, basically, after where Serenity left off. But at the same time, it seemed like there was a jump in technology.
Well, it definitely wasn't after Serenity.
Oh, no, you're right. Book's alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of weird to see them for the long time slinging, bolt-action rifles and six-shooters, but in one video, there they are getting away in a truck, and in the back of it is Jane using a pair of Gatling guns.
Right.
Well, I think it was pretty well established that depending on where you are in the whole sphere system, that you have to deal with certain levels of technology. The closer you are to the center, the higher tech you got. The further out you are.
I absolutely grant that, but I guess it's weird to... The problem is this weird middling point they've reached. I understand the low-tech of the Outer Worlds, why they use a lot of old-fashioned technology. I understand the high-tech of the Alliance. I understand why they have all this space-age stuff. Why is there all this stuff in the middle? How do you go from... I mean, I understand that your options are star drives or horse and carriage. Where do 8-cylinder trucks fit into this? Your options are six-shooter or basically repeater rifles. Where do Gatling guns fall into this?
Innovation
Technology
for war.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have a certain amount of stuff that you can't afford the new technology, so of course you're going to have to make do with whatever you can get your hands on. But it would still be somewhat rare. The six-shooters and everything else are things that could be easily repurposed. The Gatling guns, I would imagine, require a little bit more, to keep them going, but also, maybe you're not willing to spend that amount of time, so you go for the new tech. But maybe you don't have access to it, so now you're going...
Now, admittedly, looking at this and thinking from a technical standpoint, I'm not going to go there. It doesn't feel like it was a Gatling gun. It's that cylinder underneath everything was probably a cooling system.
It's just it doesn't quite jive for me.
And I just don't think Jane's that strong to wield two guns like that.
Well, not with any form of accuracy.
That's its character for the comic book. That man is ripped. In the actual show, he's a well-built individual, but there's a little something
comic exaggeration,
artistic
basically.
license. Yeah,
it could be the artist. Unfortunately, some people never did escape the '90s extreme regimen.
But
it's true.
But honestly, some of it probably has to do with the fact that making a laser gun in film is one thing. Making something that already exists and is easily obtainable and is easily licensable as far as using on sets and so forth is another thing. Then you have to try and go for Gatling guns and so forth. This wasn't exactly a movie budget type production, so they may have just steered clear of that for monetary reasons.
But couldn't you also make the argument that if you're doing this on paper in the form of art, you could actually change a few things around to an ideal?
True, but it depends on whether or not that was his ideal.
It's hard to tell since most of the scripts Whedon works off of by now are 12 years old. You can argue that just about any artist evolves to such a point that the guy who wrote these just no longer exists.
True.
What wouldn't surprise me is that he's still writing scripts for all these series. The guy is obsessive.
Yeah.
That would not surprise me.
gosh. It is... The only problem with trying to review these books is it is hard to explain to people who may not have seen any of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend, if this piques your interest, to go watch it's available on box set. The Firefly series was a really good series. I'm still upset.
If you wait long enough, you can find on Sci-Fi again.
Well, it was very original. The idea of this weird fusion of the different styles of technology available, as well as it's basically an Old West in space. It's what made Star Wars so popular back in the 70s. The only problem it really had, though, was that it was stuck at the worst time slot imaginable, late night on Fridays. Even nerds have things to do on Fridays.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I think that was intentional on Fox's part.
It was. In interviews by different writers, including Whedon and a few of the actors, it was very evident Fox didn't know what to do with this series. The first couple episodes were very dark, so they asked them to lighten it up. They lightened it up, but when you do that, you lose a lot of story elements.
Yeah, well, that and the fact that
it was a change.
It was ahead of its time. Yeah. Well, it was also ahead of its time. I mean, the story that they were telling, if it was told now, nobody would even bat an eye. But at the time that it was being introduced, was a little progressive, and censors were a little more trigger happy.
Sensitive.
Well, I don't know about that. Wasn't this before the Janet Jackson boob incident?
Yes.
This was back when you could get away with more on TV. When she showed that nipple, all bets were off.
Well, I'm not talking about nudity or anything like that. They did have
you were referring
to purposes prostitute traveling around on their ship.
Yeah, what I mean is, though, you were referring to censorship, and censorship actually got worse after this show ended.
Only as far as, physical nudity or something along those lines. I don't think they really curtailed script writing so much.
Oh, they curtailed a lot. There were even radio hosts who could no longer use words like ass and bitch on radio anymore.
Yeah, that didn't last very long either, though. A lot of people got upset about that.
It's still happening. There was a lot of people I follow on radio who've gotten out of it. They've turned to the internet so they could actually use the dialogue they're used to.
Yeah.
The FCC was proven to be wrong in their tightening up of rules, but unfortunately people are so conservative these days, they haven't loosened those rules in the least.
Well, again, I'm looking at it more from television rather than radio.
I'm just giving you an example. Things have not gotten better out there.
I see a lot of programs nowadays that, in my mind, are more boundary pushing than Firefly was.
I've seen them, but they're only on cable channels.
Yeah.
The stuff we watch nowadays, the risque stuff, they're off-network channels.
Well, I'm not talking about risque things. I'm just talking about storyline and just how dark you can go with a program.
Yeah, you'll never find that on networks.
I don't know. What's that one that you watched, Jesse? With the time travelers or whatever? They blew up that entire building and so on and so forth.
That's on Sci-Fi, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. Again.
And that's continuing, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, there are certain shows out there that have even gotten people calling for a la carte cable stations. There are conservative people who saw the recent Sons of Anarchy, which involved a school shooting, and they've decided that was a breaking point. You should not have to take all channels to watch the few you want. You know what? That's an old argument, for fuck's sake. I would love to get rid of half of these cable channels because most of them only have one interesting show and a whole bunch of shit to go along with it. But that one interesting show is enough to make these people want to demand more for their services, which means your cable provider has to pay more, which means they got to charge you more.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe if we can get an a la carte, maybe we can actually have a station with a bunch of good channels and get rid of all this flotsam. That would mean the Kardashians are out of a fucking job.
Well, honestly, I think there was... didn't we talk about this? That somebody had actually made a a la carte system and got sued by the cable company?
Not exactly. That was the company who was recording TV shows for other people to stream later. So it was only a la carte in the format that it was, watch when you have time, which is a service being handled by a bunch of different people. The reason why this got sued was because the guy was doing the same thing with network shows.
Ah.
So they were trying to basically make him cease and desist because he could market this to people as a set-top box, kind of like a replacement for DVRs.
Gotcha.
And the thing is, the networks lost because it was... I don't know the exact argument, but I imagine it wasn't too hard to argue. It's just like anybody else recording a show, except now you're asking a central service to do it. So I don't think they have any leg to stand on to stop him from doing it. It's currently being tested in New York and a couple other markets, if I remember correctly. But at the same time, that would mean that people could skip a lot of these bad shows that are out there that they don't care about anymore.
Right.
So I would certainly look forward to that. I would like to see Chelsea Handler off the TV. And I would like to see Justin Bieber under a truck. But that's two different problems.
All 18 wheels?
What?
Is that all 18 wheels?
I'd be satisfied with one decent 4x4 with race suspension, sir. I mean, I could go into a book of what's wrong with that little prick. And that's both... that's both figuratively and literally. Little prick. I guess we didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about the Serenity books, but again, if you're not readily familiar with the show and or the movie, it's a little hard to follow.
Yeah. It's definitely not something to just kind of jump into. It doesn't... It's
not one of those...
Inside cover page is kind of the most background that you'll get on the matter, which is, the opening sentence of the show.
It's not like a lot of series out there where there are points where stories end and you can hand them this and just say, if you start from here, you understand it all. You really need to watch the TV series to get this book. Right.
But if you have seen the TV series and you have seen the Serenity movie, or if you are interested in seeing the Serenity movie and have seen the TV series, I would read that first. It does give you a little bit of insight as to what happens beforehand.
What do you think, Jesse? Jesse?
Thinking.
Oh my god, I thought River killed him.
I can't think straight.
Does it burn? I mean, what happened?
Honestly, for those who have seen the show, can really enjoy it, especially with some of the what the fuck moments that, the show is actually famous for.
Okay.
But, honestly, without knowing a little bit, No, you really need the background of the series to get a lot of the jokes and what the fuck moments.
Okay. All right. Well, we need to talk a little bit about next week because the plan right now is to do some pop culture profiling.
Oh, I have the list.
Oh, do you? Because I had one off the bat that I think needs to be included.
What's yours? Let me find the list.
The Taskmaster.
Ooh. Could be interesting.
I think that's a very different one that needs to be discussed.
Hold on.
Oh, snap. Something popped. Okay, I needed that.
Where is it?
But, I think the Taskmaster is a very unique type of power we haven't really had a chance to go into yet.
Yeah.
That's not it.
We need unique characters to discuss.
Well, I know one of the characters that Jesse had recommended was Shadowcat.
Okay.
Oh, crap, I had some...
Four Bushman!
I was thinking about taking some, how we took Batman and Superman and whatnot when we first did. Why don't we pick up some of the other members of the league? Like,
I think we already discussed a couple of them.
Flash?
Only during the sexual one.
Yeah. Did kind of get into that a little. Trying to think.
Yeah, what happened to my damn list?
I could not say.
Cat ate it.
Actually, how about Cyborg? That's a different situation.
Yeah.
Haven't really had to go into that type of item yet. So we've got 3. We need at least 3 more, preferably 4.
Nightcrawler?
Let's hold on to that one for a little bit. I was actually thinking more along the lines of the Angel and Archangel.
Oh, yeah, this was on my list, Angel.
That covers a couple different angles on this. And another one I had in mind was Reptil.
Ooh.
Not familiar with him.
He's a younger Avengers character. He has a talisman that allows him to transform into different dinosaurs. So that one is definitely kind of outside the box by comparison. Actually, speaking of which, there's another one that he's been associated with as what they call the Avengers Academy. That could be a fun conversation. That's Hazmat.
Ooh, yeah.
Hazmat is constantly producing an radioactive field around her. She actually requires a containment suit to keep from killing people. Unconsciously, anyway. We could use one more. Maybe we should find a villain. We haven't put a villain on this list.
Clayface?
I like that. Okay.
That's a disturbing one.
Yeah, that's a very different one. And actually, we'll add to that, just in case we have a little room left over, is Harley Quinn, because that
she was
requires some
also on
discussion.
my list too, yeah.
That requires some discussion. Okay, so that's 8. That's more than enough to discuss. We'll spend hours ripping that apart, especially now that we've added the sexual aspect to the conversation. It's true!
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a list.
I don't really want to consider what her sex life is like, though.
I don't want to consider what Clayface's is like, but we've put it on the list.
Oh, God.
You think it drips?
I am sincerely hoping that he actually assumes some other form.
But I thought you liked tentacle rape monsters.
You can almost imagine the argument. It's like having sex with Play-Doh. This is disgusting.
Yes, if we bring up the tentacle rape, then yes, that would be amusing, but no.
You could be both an innie and an outie.
Oh, God.
So we will end it there. We'll leave you all with what nightmares we've given you. I want you to roll with us again next week. Thank you very much. I am Jeremy.
Steve?
And Jesse.
Have a great one. I'm sure people are going to just turn the censors on us now that we've brought this one up.
I stopped
my
myself.
damn list.
I stopped myself from mentioning how unique he could self-pleasure himself.
Oh, I'm sterile.